Hey guys, SuperBeard here. Just a real quick update. This is episode 9A. It's a supplemental episode to our podcast from yesterday. But during the recording, there was a lot of lag issues, so you'll see that the video tends to freeze quite a few times. I apologize for this. I'm rectifying it with my computer now, but the audio is still there, so you can still listen as you go. But please enjoy this discussion on the movie Chef and how it's an allegory for Iron Man 2 and Jon Favreau's time there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Geeks and a Noob podcast with your host, SuperBeard Vince Hoover, and his co-hosts, Jason Q. Perez and Denise Jackson. A podcast for the indoctrinated nerd, the casual fan, and everyone in between. Now, on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a supplemental episode of Two Geeks and a Noob podcast, episode 9A. So we had talked about a couple weeks ago before we had some scheduling conflicts and some illness conflicts that we were going to talk about the movie Chef by Jon Favreau and how it's actually an allegory to his time with Iron Man 2 and him deciding to leave the director's chair at Marvel. So we're going to talk about that now because we had a lot of fun doing our Marvel quiz. That was the main episode for episode 9, but this will be a nice 9A. So for those of you unaware, and I'll have the video that sparked this whole conversation in the description once again. I had it in the earlier one so you guys could see it, but I'll put it back in. There was a video from Mr. Sunday Movies, which, by the way, great channel. Go like and subscribe their stuff. Also, like, comment, and subscribe on our stuff. Hit that notification bell, let it know when all these new videos come up. But Chef was the movie that Jon Favreau wrote and directed immediately after doing Iron Man 2. And a lot of people realize that this was a very subtle dig at Hollywood in general. But as it turns out, it might be a little bit more personal and it might deal more with Jon Favreau's time with Marvel and why he left the director's chair. Now, he stayed on as an executive producer. He's also happy in the other films, like the Spider-Man films. We see him again, but he did leave the director's chair behind. And it's crazy. So, Denise, you're the biggest geek here on this film. You and I both love this movie. Q has seen bits and pieces of it, but he knows the story. So he's really the noob here. But Denise, I'm going to throw it to you, and
Yeah.
you at first explain the film.
Well, I watch this movie at least once a month. It's one of my favorites. It basically is someone with a huge creative potential that's being stifled. He's not able to express himself at all. And he even says it to his son in the movie, like, this is what I do. Like, I might have been a bad father and I'm sorry for that, but I'm good at this. Like, this is what I do. And it's someone that is really, like, understands his craft and has perfected it, and he knows what he wants to do, but again, he's stifled in the current situation. So when I first heard that this had something to do with anything outside of like a chef, it's kind of mind blowing. So, kicking it back to you, you explain that, like, okay, so
The
there's this
allegory.
person, yeah, that is really, really good and passionate and loves their job and what they do, but is stifled. So
Yeah.
back to, yeah.
So going back to the first Iron Man movie, people don't realize that was actually an independent film. Um, Arguably the most successful independent film of all time. And it's because Marvel Studios did not have a home at the time. Disney had not bought them yet. They were just starting out. They were experimenting, and they pretty much just let Jon Favreau go ham. Come Iron Man 2, though, they had already had Incredible Hulk, which didn't do great. And a lot of that had to do with Edward Norton really trying to get in there and take control of the whole process. And then they had Thor, which did well. No, I take that back. Not Thor. Iron Man 2 came after. Okay. So Iron Man 2 came right after Incredible Hulk. So they were 1-1 at this point. One was a huge hit, one not so much. And the video that kind of sparked this whole discussion dropped Kevin Feige's name a lot. But the reality is it wasn't Kevin Feige at the time, because Kevin Feige wasn't actually fully in charge at the time. It was Ike Perlmutter. And I know that when that name is said, a lot of times you hear dooming hell music, and I apologize, because he's an awful, awful human being.
God.
His most notable picture is him and Donald Trump. I'm just going to leave it there. So Ike Perlmutter was really taking control. If there's some behind the scenes stuff you can find out, there was a very different movie that Jon Favreau was going to make than what got made. From script to shot, like the storyboards, they're all out there. It was a very different movie. And the studio started trying to micromanage and take control, and it went from being fun and experimental to being almost like a 9-to-5 cubicle job. It became disheartening.
So can I like speak on that right there then? Because
Yeah.
there's a scene in the movie that
By the
was
way, hold on real
totally.
quick, Denise, bring your camera down just a little bit. All we see is your head. You've been
Oh.
beheaded. There you go.
There you are.
So
It was like heck.
speaking about that, that 9-to-5 thing that you were just talking about, you can see that when he's it's Al Green,
just the title. Don't sing it. You're gonna get us.
okay.
You're gonna get us booted.
It's just okay. Let me just explain the scene then.
Yeah.
There's like a puppeteer, like skeleton guy singing a song, and he's just standing there staring at it, and his son's watching it too. But he just like you totally see that little skeleton dude is like speaking to him on like a spiritual level at that point, because his son's like, dad, and he's just like watching this thing like, oh my god, because the song and that whole situation, it's just really beautiful. You guys got to see it.
Well, what's interesting about it is that he's not shied away from blockbusters. It isn't like it was such a bad experience that he refuses to go back to do big budget movies. He did Lion King. He did the live action Lion King. He did the live action Jungle Book. Like, he's done a lot for Disney. He does the Mandalorian. Like, he does a lot of work.
Mandalorian, oh my god.
Yeah, he's done like massive. He still works, and I think he was very happy when Disney took over, and because Marvel was still not under Disney come Iron Man 2. So I think that he was much happier once Disney kind of took over, and then Kevin Feige was given more power. The thing is, Jon Favreau was supposed to direct Avengers 1. He was supposed to be the Marvel director. Like, he wasn't going to direct every single film, but he was going to be directing a lot of their big films. And he, of course, passed on that. Now, he's still an executive producer. We still see him as Happy Hogan. He's not mad at Marvel. And that is where Dustin Hoffman's restaurant owner character comes in. Dustin Hoffman does represent Kevin Feige. Because Kevin Feige was given orders to basically rein in Jon Favreau by Ike Perlmutter. And Dustin Hoffman's character, the whole thing that causes Jon Favreau's chef to kind of explode and go out on his own and make his own food truck is that there's a major food critic and one of those like the guy from Ratatouille, like that kind of guy, like it's going to be negative no matter what you do, so you're trying your best. Egon, whatever his name was in Ratatouille. So Jon Favreau decides, I'm going to create a special menu for the day, and that happens a lot in 5-star restaurants. The menu is not placid. It is fluid. It changes. So he's like, I'm going to do this, and we're all going to go. He got his whole staff and crew. They were all his sous chef, everybody. They were all super like, yeah, this is going to be great. They all got excited. And Dustin Hoffman, as the manager, comes in and goes, I have a business to run. We know that the menu works. Stick to the menu and make some scratch.
Specifically, he was like, you're going to put guts on the menu? And he was like, you're talking about my sweetbreads? That's not guts.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's no villain to this film in the traditional sense. Because Dustin Hoffman's character as the restaurant manager is not the villain. The critic is also not the villain. He's not a bad guy.
No, he's
bored
has a
with
business to run.
The critic is bored with standard 5-star dining.
Yeah.
But Dustin Hoffman knows what's successful, and what has gotten him to 5 stars is that menu.
Right.
So he wants to make sure he sticks with that. So there's a lot of, it's conflicting, for lack of a better term, egos.
It really is, because at the end of it, that critic even tells, like, he ends up funding him to open up the restaurant, but he was like, dude, like, you are coming at me. I buy ink by the barrels. Like, I thought we were just having fun, like, you're coming at me. I thought we were just having fun. But like, he was like, you were one of my golden boys. Like, he was really looking forward to him delivering something better for him, but he was stifled and not able to do that in the restaurant. So it was really sad.
Yeah. So Q, let me hear your thoughts on especially this Allegory. And you know a lot about, because you have a huge filmmaking background just like I do.
Yeah.
You've even worked for like Fox and big studios, like the TV studio, but you've worked in the industry, you've been there from, like, with me, you were with me there for Comic Book 101. You saw what a lot, like, that crap went on, and that was like a microcosm version, you know what I mean? So, like, so now knowing about this Allegory, having watched that video and having, a bit about the movie, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely get it, because at the end of the day, those production companies are, at the end of the day, a business.
Put your mic up. Put your mic up.
Yeah, you're
very good. How about
there
now?
You go.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. So at the end of the day, they're there to make a buck, and those executives, they're not artists.
No,
they're businessmen. And they're the ones who say yay or nay. So when they come up against an artist like that, it's them who wins at the end of the day, and it's sad, because it's us, we the consumers, who know good art, and they who they put together what do they call them, like study groups, or
focus groups.
Focus groups.
Yeah.
Okay, they preview these things and they vote it. It's just that's not how art works. And I get a lot of I saw a video on YouTube about a lot of the parallels between what happened with him and Iron Man 2. And I get it. And he painted a picture for us in this movie. Now, like I said, I didn't get to see it all, but I have seen bits and pieces. And the pieces that were important, how he explained to the critic when he was chewing them out in the restaurant. He's like, look, this may have not have been what I created, but my crew worked hard to put what was on your plate right now. They still worked hard, so it wasn't just about
my shit was molten. It's fucking molten.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm actually in a very unique position with this story, because not only do I have a background in filmmaking, I'm also an award-winning chef. Humble brag. But I was actually able to compete in the world's largest culinary competition.
There goes that cookie again.
Yep. Watch the Marvel quiz to understand the cookie reference. But I've been in the restaurant business off and on for almost 20 years as well. In the Army, I was a cook, and I ended up becoming a certified chef and an award-winning chef in the world's largest culinary competition. And it's because I approached food like art, because it is art. I'm actually a food artist as well. I do ice carvings, watermelon carvings, pumpkin carvings, sugar sculptures, that kind of stuff. Food is art. And the chef is the artist. Just like a director is painting the picture of a film.
Yeah.
So is the chef painting the picture on a plate. But the restaurant manager is the businessman, as is the producer is the businessman, because they'd rather put out a crappy movie that they know is still going to make a bunch of money, like a formulaic, just standard, play it by the numbers movie that's going to make money versus taking a chance. So when you've already had one success and you're trying to make and this happens with sequels so much. Like The Mummy Returns is another great example. The Mummy is one of the best action films, period. Bar none, hands down. It did something that no other film could do, and that was basically kind of recapture that Indiana Jones magic. And they did it with The Mummy.
So much so they have a ride at Universal Studios.
One of the greatest rides of all time.
Yeah. And
it's funny. But the sequel, like, they called, as soon as they heard that morning that movie came out and the tickets were already sold out, they called and said, we're doing a sequel. So the sequel got rushed. The sequel got, hey, just stick to we're going to do the first movie, but bigger. And that's what happens in these sequels. So in a restaurant, you hit that 5-star dish, or like, in my case, where we won an award, I was literally approached by my sergeant and told, okay, do that, but better. Make a dish like that, but better. And that's hard. That's harder to do than just letting me be an artist. That is harder to do than just letting me make a new dish.
Yeah.
It's harder to try, like, okay, crap, okay, so this is what I gotta do, but I gotta do bigger. Like, how do you,
Yeah.
I already put my heart and soul into the first one. I put my heart and soul in that. Now you expect me to say that wasn't, you're basically saying it's not good enough.
Yes.
And while that's never
Yeah.
the approach of the producers, subconsciously, that's what they're saying. It's like, okay,
Well, yeah.
this movie made a ton of money, but it wasn't good enough. I want you to do it bigger.
Right.
No,
Because
yeah.
there has to
I
be a
can't because
sequel.
this
It
was it.
can't be the same thing. It
But-
has to
Yeah.
be different.
Yeah, you
and
see a lot
better.
of this happening in comedies where you see a lot of the same recycled jokes, whether they're physical or line jokes.
Definitely.
You know, it's like, oh, the formula worked the first time, let's keep doing it. No.
American Pie is a great example of that. Every
Yeah.
American Pie sequel is just American Pie, and it doesn't work. So it's
Well,
just
what would have happened if, like, he actually did, if they let him do, or if he decided to do
Well,
it?
okay, let me back up real quick.
Yeah.
When I got it first, when he had the critic the first time, the owner, Dustin Hoffman, the manager, he suggested that they stay with.
You
the
were right,
menu.
an owner. It was his restaurant.
yeah, he was the owner.
So,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, did he suggest that they stay with the menu, or
He
did he
pretty much
insist?
told
'Cause I
him.
remember,
Yeah.
I remember he insisted the second time. I
Yeah.
just don't remember him insisting the
First time was like passive aggressive. He
Yes.
was like, "Okay, you stick with the, like, you do what you." The thing is he said, "You do what you think is going to be good, but if you want my opinion, you should stick with your hits."
And
Yeah.
I wanted to point that out because, you know, if that's what happened
Right.
inside the making in Iron Man 2, you know, okay, so
Right.
now let's unfold. I want to unfold what was it that he really wanted to do in Iron Man 2 that he didn't get to do, because I haven't not seen any of the storyboards, and
It's,
I'm sure a lot of our audience really didn't get
It's
to either.
I
for those.
can't really speak on exactly what the story was going to be, but I know that there was a lot of differences in how the villain was used. Whiplash. There was a lot of differences. It was much more, again, almost experimental style, and it was much more like taking a chance. Whereas what we see in Iron Man 2 is basically Iron Man 1 cranked up to 11. And you got Whiplash was going to be very different from Iron Man. But instead we got Warmonger again. Basically, we got an Iron Man copy again.
Mhm.
And we got the drone thing, all that. It was all these Iron Man copies. That wasn't going to be in it. Like,
Mhm.
and so there was so much. It was going to be such a different film. And I highly recommend people go ahead and do the research and look it up. You're not going to find, like, you can watch the behind the scenes that come with the movie, but I would recommend looking up the actual behind the scenes, and then, like, you can find it it's in bits and pieces. Like, you're not going to find it in just one article. You're not going to find it in one place. You got to really, like, it's going to be in different places, which is why I'm not listing it all off. But it was a vastly different movie.
So the look was going to be different.
Yeah, a lot of it was going to be different. Like, he was going to go for a different shooting style. The looks of the characters were going to be different. Like Whiplash was going to be different. Although I do believe he did still end up in a suit in his storyboards. But it was still going to be.
It almost looked like half of a Hulkbuster suit. And you know, I'm looking at some of his comic book suits. Yeah, they still kind of Tony Stark-esque, but
Yeah, the newer Whiplash stuff, he's definitely more Tony Stark. It's more mechy. But it was
I
just.
don't understand how you just don't give him full reign. Like, obviously he is a genius. Look
And
at everything that how do you not just be like, okay, yes.
Okay, I can explain that. And that comes from who was in charge. Because I think if Kevin Feige had the power he has now, if he had it then, he would have let him do what he wanted to do. But it was Ike Perlmutter who was in charge. And so he was like, no, we're not doing that. But, like, you look at like Disney. Disney is one of the biggest movie studios in the world, and yet they give him free reign with Star Wars, one of the biggest franchises in the world, and they just let him go. Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni and all those guys, and they're just like, you do you. There's a reason we picked you. And that's kind of a new thing in Hollywood. And you saw it a lot with Warner Brothers. That's why the Justice League theatrical cut sucked so bad. Because once Zack Snyder was out, and they put
Yeah.
Josh Whedon in. They gave him $10 million and then said, do this, do this, do this, do this. He
Right.
wasn't directing a film. He was
It was-
piloting a plane wreck.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the stuff he did add in was very Josh Whedon-esque and
Ugh.
absolutely terrible. And very
Ugh.
much like the Flash falling on Wonder Woman's boobs is a very Josh Whedon thing.
Oh God.
The whole brunch joke, like what's brunch? I don't shut up.
Yeah.
So, but micromanaging, Sony has done it, which is why Spider-Man 3 was terrible. That's why Amazing Spider-Man 2 was terrible, because these studios, part of it is we've had success, let's stick to the formula. But the other part of it is there's a fear. There's a fear of it going wrong. So they want to control it, which is what Dustin Hoffman's character was doing. He suggested the original menu because he was scared. But then he demanded on the second time the original menu because he was really scared.
Yeah.
He was scared of failing. He's like, look, these are your hits. This is what works. Stick with what works. Don't experiment and fail. But then what happened? He failed.
Well,
He
and
failed.
because the guy was expecting a different experience,
Mhm.
and that's what he was trying to give his fans, a different experience. It's not, we don't want the same shit all the time.
Exactly.
We don't want the caviar egg and then pulling and ending with a chocolate lava cake. Like, we
Yeah.
really wish that we
Yeah.
could have seen a different movie.
Exactly. And,
Cool.
and you see that now in Marvel. Like, look at what Taika Waititi did with Thor Ragnarok. Look at what James Gunn did with the Guardians of the Galaxy films.
Mhm.
Look at what Peyton Reed did with Ant-Man. Look at Doctor Strange. There is a formula to Marvel, but it is not a formula of tightly wound formula. It is very like, it's a basic formula. It's you want to have a balance of quips and drama. You want to give the characters life from the comics, but put them in our new world. So
Yeah.
they're just different enough from the comics that they fit in the real world that we've created in the MCU. Look
Well,
at
I don't
Loki.
know what quote it is, but it says, well-behaved women rarely make history. But it could be men too. Like, well-behaved men rarely make history either. You have to do you. You can't fit into anybody else's bubble. So I'm glad that he made this movie to explain how he was feeling and what was going on.
Exactly. I already loved the movie Chef. I've seen it. I don't even know how many times. I resonated with it because I understood the restaurant world and being an artist. Because as a chef, you're not just a machine who follows recipes. You're an artist. It is truly an art form. So I resonated with it there. Plus, it's just a great film. But now, like seeing how it is a kind of a nod to what he went through and being also a filmmaker and having that background, I appreciate this film so much more now.
Yeah. Because he really gave us some insight that Joes like us don't really have unless, we kind of have, we went to school. But for the basic person, yeah.
Put your microphone up. I can't hear you.
Well, look at it like this too. Look at it like
Wait,
this too.
so I want to hear what he said again, but with his microphone up.
It gives us an inside look to the industry without being an exact,
Right.
camera. It's it's a parallel, and
Right.
there's not everybody can see behind the curtain. And
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Well, I would have never thought that this movie had anything to do with anything else until it was brought to my attention. It was
Yeah.
just a great movie by itself. But now looking at, or, hearing that it was about this, like, totally, I want to watch it again and look at it in a different
yeah, you're
way.
gonna look at it a different light. But here's what I
Yeah.
also appreciate about it. Jon Favreau could have just went off and wrote a scathing article or did an interview where he talked trash.
Right. Right.
And like that happens. Like how often do you like it,
Yeah.
it
He's
happens?
too much of a genius. to
That's
do
that's
that.
not art. That's
But
not what
No,
he
it's
does.
not
Well,
art.
not only that, he's not
Perfect.
he's
Perfect.
not
Way to go,
angry.
Q.
He's
That was
also
good.
he's also not angry at everyone. And
Mhm.
so but he was frustrated. And what does an artist do to get their frustration out? They create art.
Well,
So
and
it's-
that's the thing
so-
in that scene. This is really, really important. Speaking to that is when he knew that the critic was coming the second time, And when he was reading the review, and then the guy, and he read that the guy was like, oh, well, he's coming again, but that chocolate lava cake was not molten, and he didn't even have like the decency to create it the way it was supposed to be. And then the guy was going to be there, and it was still the same menu. He came up, and that's when he like lost his shit. He was like, no, this is not how it was. Like, but Dustin Hoffman's character was sitting there, and he was like, everything that he said, that was gonna hurt you. Like, you were scared that this critic was gonna shut down your restaurant. Like, that he hurt you. So again, like, even though he lost his job, there was no, like, I feel like he understood the situation
Yeah.
and was just, he knew what was going on, and that this person could potentially lose their restaurant based upon this critic's engagement with the food.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, there's also the scene where, like, when he first gets frustrated, he goes home and he makes a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yes.
But that grilled cheese sandwich is a work of art. It's not
Yes,
just
it is.
it's not just some butter toast and slapping a piece of cheese on there. Like he
Yeah, but
he treats his home kitchen like
that's
his.
not what happened though. Like, he went home and cooked like a whole menu. The grilled cheese was for his son. But like,
That's right. You're right. The grilled cheese was for his son. But even then,
yeah,
treating that, like I said, he always treated
yeah,
it like art. But
it
yeah,
was
You're
art.
right. He did go home and cook a whole menu. There was that scene with him and Scarlett Johansson where she's at the house and he cooks for
Oh my
he cooks for
God.
her.
Beautiful pasta
Yeah.
dish.
And
That
but,
was
like,
art too.
but it's just so what he's showing us is that he got his frustration out through art, because he also realizes that it's not one person, it's not even one studio, it's just a combination of so much. It's a conflict of artist versus business.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and he realized that it's so much more than just this person versus this person. So he got his frustrations out the only way he knew how, through art. And that it makes me appreciate this film even more than I already did, which I didn't think was possible. It's
really does.
It's not just an allegory for his time with Iron Man 2 and what happened there. It is a love letter to the art of filmmaking and to the art of food.
And to anybody that wants
to artists
express
in general.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what he's also saying in that film is, bet on yourself as the artist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't let anything stagnate you.
If you feel stagnant, move on.
Yeah.
Do it on your own, which is why he goes out and get a food truck, and he goes out and does it on his own.
And he's like, I'm so happy. And I love the pest in that.
John Leguizamo is fantastic.
Oh my God.
Oh.
He's one of my favorite characters. I love him in that.
John Leguizamo is one of my favorites. Which by the way, he is coming to Tampa, I think, in November.
Oh my God, cool.
So that might be something we need to do. I'm going to look into maybe trying to get him on an interview.
That would be awesome.
I love John Leguizamo.
Oh, me too.
He's great in everything. Like,
yes.
John Wick, Tu Wong Fu.
Oh my God, yes, John Wick.
The Pest,
The Pest.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you speak German? Un petit peu.
But he makes some
Air.
bomb ass moho in this movie. Oh my God, just watching him.
And that's him. But like his one man shows are always great. Everything about him is just, he's great. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
But he also, I think he understood where Favreau was coming from, which is why he took the role in the first place, and why he was so good in the character he was playing.
Yeah.
And I give the kid a lot of credit.
That was, he did a
son
really
was
great job.
Kid actors, you don't always know what you're going to get, and the kid did fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Downey Jr. See, Robert Downey Jr. to me was more like an amalgamation of, like, Dustin Hoffman was I think Dustin Hoffman's character was more like Kevin Feige in that he didn't want to demand it, but he got to a point where he had to, because although there was nobody higher up than him as a restaurant owner, the allegory is the restaurant was higher than him. If they didn't do what he said, like, they would lose the restaurant. So the restaurant was the studio. The restaurant was like Perlmutter in the studio. Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who's kind of skeevy, is kind of an amalgamation of studio heads
Mhm.
and how, as an independent filmmaker, you have to go beg for money.
Yes.
And that's what he does. He begs for money for the truck, and he's given a piece of crap truck. But him and John Leguizamo and the guy and the kid playing his son, they take that piece of crap and they turn it into gold.
Yeah.
And
But it
that's
also speaks to how much that means to him.
yeah, it was worth the work. It was
Yep.
worth the work. And you would and like there's a scene you could almost be like, I can see how some people be like, well, you don't need the scene of them working on the truck. You absolutely need that scene.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Like you need that. Like
Yeah.
that little montage of them working on the truck is so important because it shows how important this, like they're putting everything into this and they're gonna make it work. And so I would highly recommend everybody go see Chef. Watch the Mr. Sunday Movies Allegory video. I'm gonna put that in the description. I want to thank everybody for listening to our nice little episode 9A supplemental episode. This will be out on Friday. Thank you guys so much.
One more
And
thing before
go
you
for it.
close it out. Gary Clark Jr. sang Travis Country and When My Train Pulls In on that film, when they're in Louisiana, and
Yes.
that is amazing. And
He's
then
really good.
also her dad was the Cuban band, and it's Jose Hernandez. Shout out to both of them. That music in that movie was amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing from top to bottom in all aspects. So go watch Chef. Watch the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on Chef. Let us know your thoughts on the Allegory and what you see, or what you didn't catch, and let us know what you think. And are there any other films you can think of where a person made a movie for a big studio and then went on to do something else, and you're like, oh, this might be something? Are there any other allegories out there? Please let us know. So, as always, you can catch our main podcast Thursdays at noon Eastern Standard Time. You can catch other stuff on A Bearded Perspective. We're going to have more reviews coming up. We've got What If coming up next week, so we're excited to see that. That's going to be amazing. There's some new news out there. So, yeah, let us know your thoughts. And thank you guys very much.
God bless everybody.
See ya.